Hey, good evening, everybody. This is A.L. Johnson with A.L. Johnson Life Insurance Agency, as well as Black Kansas City Magazine. I'm here with the owner of Black KC Magazine, Mr. Kareem Jackson, as well as our state representative, Mr. Mike Johnson, who's responsible for District 23 in Missouri. How you fellas doing this evening?
Good, brother, man. Good to see you guys. Good to be here.
Yes,
Good.
sir.
Brother Mike's in the house today, so this is a good thing. Hey,
That's right. That's
Thank you,
right.
gentlemen, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're going to let a few people get in because this is an important conversation. Mr. Johnson, the reason that I wanted to have you on is I believe that it's extremely important that the people in our community have direct contact with the people who make decisions because we can't complain about what is or isn't happening when we don't connect with the leaders in our community who are responsible for help shaping and making those decisions. And so, first off, I want to thank you for being willing to come on a social platform, be willing to take questions from your constituents. It speaks a lot to you and your integrity and how seriously you take the position. And so we definitely appreciate that. While we're waiting on a few people to get in, let's get some of the background stuff out of the way. And so tell us, for those that don't know, who is Mike Johnson?
All right, I appreciate that question. And once again, I do appreciate you all for having me. Mike Johnson is just a guy that was Kansas City born and bred. Been here all my life outside of being in the military and traveling abroad. Uh, I've lived in this district my entire life. So, anytime that I've been here, and this is going to always be considered home. And home is something you can always come back to. Graduated from Northeast High School. From there, went on to the military, to the U.S. Army. Spent a great deal of that time overseas in Germany. Loved it. Great experience. Loved serving my country. From there, came back home. Had an opportunity to go to a HBCU, to Philander Smith College. Study business. From there, came back home. Had an uncle who was an insurance agent. Who was a city councilman who got his insurance license and became part owner of an insurance company, McDaniel Hasley Group, and took a liking to that field. Got my license, like you, Mr. Johnson, and been able to help serve the minority community with the importance of the financial services and benefits and the transitional income. I call it, it's an opportunity to have just like generational income and generational wealth. And so I got into that field and I've been there ever since. And that's what, outside of doing this, the love that I have for being able to serve others in this field that I'm in, I would say that would be my bread and butter. So I appreciate being able to tell my constituents and others that have tuned in with us today who I am and just a little bit about me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so I can appreciate that being a fellow life insurance agent. It is an important profession,
Correct.
especially in our community, because there's so many people who struggle. And I truly believe this, that a lot of the violence and the crime and the things that we experience in our inner cities, it's based off of economics, right? When you
Correct.
have a lot of people in a concentrated area and the economics aren't right, there's going to be bloodshed, there's going to be crime, there's going to be violence. And so until we fix that key thing, I believe that there's always going to be somewhat of a struggle. Kareem, my brother here, he's
Yes,
in
sir.
the Philippines. And so he was in Kansas City. He
My
said, you know
brother.
what, I'm getting out of here. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Kareem? Like some of the decisions that made you say, maybe living abroad is an option.
well, way before passport bros, you guys. I've been having my passport since I was 8 years old. Thank God to my family from Kansas City. My dad Ajax grew up with the Haleys, so shout out to Alex Haley, bless his heart. And then David Haley, your senator there. I grew up with his family. When they were doing the Root Saga, they did it at our house overseas. So I
Wow.
kind of grew up with the whole situation of understanding that the world was much bigger than Kansas City. And I'll tell you this too: is that leaving Kansas City specifically. Um, the same as it always has been, man. My dad left for Kansas City because of the racism and lack of opportunities in Kansas City for black men specifically. And to be honest, with the whole passport bros movement and all that crap now, Black Lives Matter, nothing's fucking changed. So, and life insurance has been very important. I've gotten payouts in my lifetime. They've helped me open a business. Actually, opened my first salon in Kansas City way back in the day. The money I got was from a settlement from a life insurance policy of a best friend of mine, not even my family.
Wow.
So, you know, it works. It's there. And this was a white mixed friend, by the way. So they kind of, you know, understood it. And the life
Right.
insurance was from their job.
Mhm.
And by the way, they used to work at the, I can't think of the cemetery off of Paseo, but they used to work at the cemetery in Kansas City. So thank gosh that cemetery. And I'll tell you another backstory about the insurance is that I had the insurance. He was murdered, actually, got killed. Terrible situation, actually, but no one knew he had this insurance, and no one knew that he definitely put me down as a beneficiary. They found me years later, right? And I got interest. I got the insurance money.
Right. Right.
You know, and I thought it was a scam. I thought they were going to try to put me in jail. I thought one of them sting operations, right? So this is too damn good to be true. You know, there ain't no way in hell that you're going to tell me that you're going to come to my house and give me $50,000. You know, with interest. Like I never heard of interest, right? So I think that all that being said is that global people understand it, and I think that for myself, I benefited from it. So I appreciate that. But leaving Kansas City ain't nothing changed, brother. Ain't nothing changed. It's morning time. So I'm sorry if I'm groggy this morning. It's early in the morning. The sun is shining. It's summertime here.
No, we appreciate you. And Brother Jackson, Brother Kareem, I have a similar situation. I too was a beneficiary and was able to help start a business from my grandmother's policy. And that money helped me do some things and get me to a point where I wanted to understand insurance even more. So I thank her for that. And then when each one of her grandkids, with the majority of them, turned 5 years old, she got a policy on us. And in that process of having it, she gave us the money when we turned 35.
See, that's a big difference. And a lot of folks, I mean, I understand if you don't get insurance as a community, since you're here as a politician for the most part, but you got to invest in something.
You most definitely do. And we have to invest in us.
Yeah, I mean, the key is invest in something. Jesus Christ. You know, I don't understand. I mean, but I guess, you know, like I was telling Brother AL, I said we probably need to talk more about the beneficiaries.
Right.
Yeah,
you know, that
we
needs to be,
do.
especially the black community. You know, we get some money. You know what we did with it.
Right, it's gone.
It ain't quiet. You go, I open up a salon. You're like, this. You know, you can. You know, we do things with the money.
Right. And I think that it's very important that we know that we need to hold ourselves accountable for that as black men, to make sure that we are making sure that we have the tools in place to put in our people's toolbox to make sure that they have an understanding of insurance and what it can do and what it can offer them, not as far as getting out, you know, getting the money and going out and spending it, you know, as soon as they get it, but to make it benefit them and their families.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let me ask you this. You were doing insurance, you went to the military. I know that you had some political influence from your uncle. But what made you say that I'm going to go ahead and jump in the race and go from serving the community in one way to serving the community in politics? What was the impetus for that?
Hey, yo, man, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I got off work one day and I literally said, I've always been able to do things, you know, I've been blessed enough to be able to do things in the community, in my neighborhoods. And I just really honestly wanted to do more. So in that process of wanting to do more, I said, you know, God, I just want to be able to give back more. I want to do things. I want to help more. And lo and behold, won't he do it? He called. I received a phone call 5 minutes later from three beautiful women that asked me to run. And they're all considered family. And, you know, when three women get on the phone and ask you to do something, three black women at that, I think you might as well make up your mind, especially for the good of the people, to go ahead and jump on board. So God called, you know, God answered when I called, and then they called and I answered. And so I told them, let me take 24 hours to pray on it. But actually, I prayed on it and I called right back. And the next day, Senator Shalon Kiki Curls met me in Jefferson City for me to file, and here we are today.
Love it, love it. So why do you think so? So the three black women asked,
Three black
you
women.
can't say no. You can't say no. But my question is, why do you feel that they chose you? What was it about your background, your history, or what you had done in the community that makes you feel that they said you're the person for the job?
I've always been in the community. I've always been boots on the ground. I've always been around my people. I love my people. I think that that's something that I've always carried with me, is the love that we need to have and the love that we do have. And it's always going to be a core of something that we can always build off of. So it's always been very important for me to get out in the community. I'm a people person. All it takes is for me to have an opportunity to listen to you and see what your story is. And I guarantee you that there's some way, if you're passionate about your people and you love them, that you'll be able to find a way to help. So that's always been a real intricate part of my life. And so when they called and I answered, I knew that I could do it. You know, I never had any doubt that I could do it because I've always been in my community and been vested in.
And what was that like? So this is your first time in this arena. You're campaigning essentially during COVID. And so what was that whole experience like?
Of course, it was brand new. So, you know, it was a difficult challenge because we were all experiencing it together. It wasn't as if though I was just personally going through something. You know, the world was experiencing this. So it was something that, of course, when you hear something like that, you automatically want to take it seriously and you want to think about your families and your loved ones. So at that point, I had to figure out a real plan. And I do believe that, well, I entrust, that you have to have a plan, and you plan your work and you work your plan. So we sat down as a team, we strategized, we put it together, and we went out and we executed and made everything happen. And when I say we, I mean my team that helped me get to where I am now. And in that process, once again, you got three black women telling you what to do, and a black campaign woman that has handled other campaigns and things before. You just go about it and you just do it. And I knew that they thought that it would be some recourse and some rebuttals for me and things of that nature, but I just stayed the course, you know.
Love it, love it. So let's talk small business a little bit. We've kind of done some of the warm up and got to know you a little bit. But with you being an insurance agent, you are already tied to the business community. And so since you've been serving the Kansas City area, you have been on the insurance committee, the health and mental wellness, business development, and you actually sponsored a bill that is the Small Business Savings Account Program. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it works?
Most definitely. That bill is House Bill 650. And in House Bill 650, what it does is it establishes the First Time Business Owner Savings Account Act. And what that establishes is it'll give you the authorization. It authorizes the taxes to be deducted from the contributors. So everybody that's starting up a business, they'll be able to pay into this. And the reason that this is important is because the distributions from the savings account are deducted. And the reason that you want to do that is because it's going to propel you in helping you start a new business. So picture you just started your business. Picture you needing help with something with the brick and mortar, plumbing, things of this nature, or you need more business supplies and resources. You'll be able to pull from this account after a certain amount of time of establishing this account. And this would only be for new business owners. With the state of Missouri being third in the nation in IT, and you know how we rank in agriculture, I think it's very important. So I've said both of those from an urban standpoint and also from a rural standpoint, that we can establish new businesses all throughout Missouri, but we need to have intricate things like this in place that will help the upstart of these new businesses. And this is why I provided this bill.
I love it. I love it. I think it's a great idea. A couple questions about the bill. So what are the proposed limits? Because I know you said that they can put money into the savings account. There is a tax deduction for that. What type of limits are we talking about?
All right. So say, for instance, we go from 35,000 to 100,000 to start off. Okay, so you're going to have a minimum and a max. And in building the minimum and the max, it allows for us to not forget about the even smaller business. You know, we want to have as much innovation when we start up these businesses to make sure that these businesses are sustainable. And because I get tired of seeing businesses open for 6 months, and it's a good business, and it brings about workforce development, it brings about economic development for families throughout our districts and communities. But I hate to see them opening in 6 months they're closed. So this is going to help sustain these businesses and build our ecosystem.
I love that. I love that. Where are we at in the process of that? I know you proposed the bill. What do you need as far as the community for us to make that a reality?
But just more engagement, more opportunities to have my constituents and anyone else that is interested throughout the state of Missouri to understand exactly how this works. I'll be putting out some information, some literature that will break it down and give them a better idea of exactly how it works, especially for those wanting to start up a new small business.
That's great. Kareem, what questions do you have?
You know what? Be honest with you, brother Mike. What comes to my mind is if you're starting a business, usually you're using your savings to start the damn business. So
Exactly.
I don't, I don't know what you mean by a tax break, and I think also too
Tax savings.
tax savings.
Okay, so when you're paying your taxes, as opposed to you paying the whole full amount, you get a savings. You don't pay the full amount, you pay a percentage of it, and the rest goes into a savings for you and your business so that you can start that business and keep it flourishing.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like investing in real estate. You're saying, okay, I'm going to put this into this savings account at we bank, or the new bank out there that you guys got,
Right.
And they can show that deposit slip, I guess, and get a tax deduction for that.
Right, but it'll have an oversight as well, Brother Jackson, where that everything has to be authorized through the act in order to make sure that everybody follows the rules and protocols.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, I get you.
So,
but
now I did see an interview.
What about when they use the money for the business? Then, of course, that moves from the tax savings account savings to a tax deduction for opening the company now. They use it for LLC or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then they can now deduct it as an actual deduction.
Correct.
Okay. I got you. So it's like putting into like a real estate account before you pay taxes, so to speak.
To a certain extent. And I'll
roll it over as opposed to not
giving
it to the government. Okay.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good. And this is if they owe. So if you're working in a job and you get a W-2, so you would, what are they paying? Where's the money going to, like, this is from their salaries technically, or from they're working, they're putting money into a savings account.
This is from the business. This is from the money that is incurred through the profits of the business.
Okay. So they're already in business. They're making money of some type, or they got money.
No. So it works both ways.
Okay. Okay.
To start up. Okay. So like you were stating, when you're establishing it, okay, then once you are establishing the business, then the taxes, you'll already be set up through this act. You've already signed up, okay, prior to starting the new business. So you're already gonna fit into a certain bracket. And depending on how much you're willing to put into, that you want to take out, to have taken out from your profits to put into the business, then that's how much money that you'll have set aside in case you need it moving forward to keep the business flourishing.
Very cool. Very
so
good.
What about when you said new businesses, are you saying a first-time business owner?
First time.
So you can never have filed a business with the state at any point in the past?
Correct.
Okay.
But
just wanted some clarity on that. But I do think that it's a great bill, and I understand where you're coming from with the taxes, because a lot of small business owners, they get that 1099, even say as an insurance agent, you get that 1099 income or that self-employed income, and a lot of people, especially in the first 2, 3, 4 years of the business, aren't generating enough profit to be able to pay their rightful share of taxes, keep up with all of their overhead and other expenses. And so to have that tax deduction through that savings account, it does put them in a situation where they don't have to get indebted to the IRS or any of these other things.
Now
So
the business
that
is
makes sense.
faltering. You know, they feel as if though they're in a sinkhole and that there's no way out. You know, but this provides them that opportunity to leverage and be able to stay in business.
I see that you do have a big heart for the business community. I saw an interview that you did, and one thing that you talked about was about business mentorship. And so basically connecting new business owners with more seasoned business owners so that they can walk them through some of these processes and provide mentorship. Can you talk a little bit about that program?
Man, I'm glad that you mentioned it, Brother Johnson. Most definitely. So what that does is that mentorship and adoption per se program would be where an older seasoned business can make sure that the newer businesses or these upstart businesses do not falter or fail, and they don't have to incur the hurdles and obstacles that older seasoned business went through. And now, once again, we are building our ecosystem with sustainability within our communities. So that's the main goal of that. And not only that, we need the same way that we have business showers. This is just another part or another caveat that goes along with that, is that
he's got to get back. I'll tell you, brother, you know, AL, I wish they had that shit when I was younger in business in Kansas City. I had to go to the white folks, you know, to get any damn help, you know, and the politicians that helped me even back in the day in Kansas City, man, you know, the black ones, not all of them, but, you know, they had to be paid, man. They had to be compensated. It wasn't like they was just like, oh, I want to see you succeed, you know, and I had no, I mean, I guess I did. And the one mentor I had, you know, took my idea, opened their own business like mine, you know, Fred Ellis. Okay. I know, you know, that brother, I'm coaching with him as my mentor, and he going to open a magazine for his wife from the KC Star. Remember that whole, so it's like, and the KC Star finally told me that. So I wish I'd had some mentorship when I was young.
For sure.
I was just wasting air, Brother Mike, you know, telling everybody, I wish I had that when I was a young businessman. You know, I had to go to the white folks. That's why I'm Republican right now, because the score was Republican back in the day, and they the ones that helped me get my shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the Dems was. That's what the Dems was.
I know everybody, man. Black folks did not mentor years ago. I grew up with the Gates. I grew up with the Ellises. I grew up with everybody, and they wasn't trying to give no gems.
Right. Well, right now, in order to throw gems for us and have olive branches for us, we gotta deprogram in order to reprogram. That's one of the main things that we have to do. We can't continue to just carry about and go about things the same way, and especially with brothers and sisters not speaking to each other, being so distant with each other. I'm not saying you got to give a person your business plan. And we need for our brothers and sisters to know what an NDA is. It's just so much information that they need in order to be able to be successful. And I think that is our responsibility, you know, and I hold myself accountable for that.
Yeah. Rep Johnson, I've got a question as it relates to that. So when it comes to the mentorship program, like Kareem said, a lot of these business owners, they don't want to take time away from their own business operations to help a potential future competitor, et cetera. And so what incentives do you have in place or in mind for something of that nature? Are there any, you know, tax breaks for the sponsoring business owner, or what would that look like?
Now, this isn't necessarily a piece of legislation yet, but because there would be a lot of things that would have to be worked out. But just for instance, 2% of your annual profits, right, from these businesses, the upstart business and the well-seasoned business, right? And you put that in to an incubator or some type of an account, to whereas when needed, say you have problems with your brick and mortar, you have problems with the heating, the cooling, things of that nature again, then we don't have to wait for the city, the county, or the state, or the government, federal government, to give us grants or tax breaks or loans. We can pull and have self-sustainability for our own ecosystem and our own businesses.
That makes sense. We got a question from the audience.
Too, AL, before you move on forward, there's already tax breaks for it. We just don't use it. There's already tax breaks. before you get into this is one thing that burns up about our community. I've seen older Black mentors complain about taking these brothers out, spending money on their food, or either vice versa, the young boys spending money on food for the mentor.
Yes.
And both of them, like, don't you realize that that's a tax deduction anyway? What money are you spending? What are you paying for this? This is what the fuck the deduction is for. This is what it's for. So then you take that meal, and then if you do have it set up, you can deduct your 2 hours or whatever it is, because you're already set up for free consultation or paid consultation, and you can,
Well, Brother Jackson, hopefully some of our people that are engaged with us this evening have just learned some pertinent information.
I hope they do. I'm like, what the hell? But go ahead. Sorry, Elliot. I just wanted to move it forward. Say, no, you can get that deduction right now before tax.
You most definitely can. You most definitely can.
Go call you 5 Negroes and help them out, take them to lunch, and write it off.
Most definitely.
We got a question from the audience. Friday Hall. She's someone who really champions the business community here. Cerise Hall. She asked, can you speak on the opportunity agenda in District 3? Are you familiar with that?
Say that again.
The opportunity agenda.
I know a little bit about it. It's more. Well, it's both. I would say it's both city and state. First of all, thank you, Cerise, for tuning in. That's a friend of mine. So big ups to you. Thank you. The opportunity agenda is it's more based on opportunities that are in the 3rd district, especially. I wish that Cerise could be on the show, because then I could have her tell more about what she does, because it will impact what she does and what she's able to bring to our communities and to our youth. So what I want to do is, I would really like an opportunity for us to have, and this is something I want to mention to you, AL as well, and Kareem, if we could even do this and have a panel where we could break down each and every opportunity like the one that she's talking about, so that we can make sure that our people have all of this information on one stage, one platform, all at one time.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Now, and Cerise, I do have some information for you about that, but I don't have it right in front of me. So I don't want to give you parts of the information, because I know that you want you want the meat and potatoes of everything, and you don't want to play with it as far as not having that pertinent, impactful information. So I am in the process of researching the rest of that, and I've taken it down in my notes right here with me, because the little bits that I know about it, I want to know more about it myself before I actually go out and start speaking on it.
So let's stay here with the topic of economics. Let's stay here because it's important. It's just so important. Everything that we deal with, it's about money. It's all about money. And so in an interview, you said that District 23 is both the richest and the poorest district in Kansas City. Can you elaborate on what you meant by that? And also maybe give a little insight into why you feel that is.
Oh, most definitely. There's several reasons. First of all, a lot of things are being built in the 23rd district. If you look around you, you see cranes everywhere. So there's a lot of activity going on that's going to be great, especially for our minority communities. With that being said, I would say that it is the poorest, because if we look at the stats on things, on a poverty level, we are the poorest. So it's factual. And not only that, I'm engaged in the community, so I'm out and about every day, and I'm asking questions with the constituents, and I'm asking what we would do, how do they feel we could better things. So they say that, we talk about living conditions, we talk about housing, we talk about homelessness, we talk about economic development. So we're very aware of where we sit on that totem pole as far as equity and what it could bring to the table for us, as far as the average income for the average minority family is way below average. I think it's around a little under 25,000 per year right now. So there's our poorest side. Some of the richest side, we have some connectivity right on the downtown district. We have going into Beacon Hill is in my district as well, through part of the redistricting that came about. So we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have business owners, we have people, we have millionaires. So it's no way to kind of sugarcoat it. We are the richest and the poorest district.
That's interesting. It's because when you talk about the redistricting, I was looking at the map, right? And for on the redistricting, I was looking at the map. And so the previous map, it was pretty easily defined, for lack of a better words. The new map, Kareem, I don't know if you've seen it, brother, but I mean, that thing is just squiggly and it loops over here and it loops over there. And, you know, it appears, you know, for someone who's not in politics and maybe just doesn't understand everything, it looks intentional. It looks like there's areas that are intentionally being cut out of the district. It looks like there's other areas intentionally being included in the district. What goes into the decision-making process that says, hey, we need to draw the lines differently now? And what's that all about?
A give and take, for better words, balancing, trying to appease both parties to make it as equal as possible. But of course, I wouldn't agree with that at all. But I'll say this: I'm not necessarily mad about my district. I was at first, you know, but after sitting down, thinking about it, whatever district you give me, I want to be able to provide what hasn't been there, and that's some love, some unity, and some boots on the ground to be able to establish getting some real things done, things of substance.
Do you feel in any way that can affect or water down a vote? Like, what?
Most definitely. I mean, we all know what gerrymandering is and things of that nature. We knew that this was coming about. And let me say this. That's why it's so important to fill out the census card. It's damn important, you know. And by filling out these census cards, we could alleviate having these lines drawn like this during redistricting. So that's how important it is for people to make sure that they're filling these cards out so we can know where you're at, who you are, and that you are a part of our society, and that you are able to vote, or if you're not, we can get you registered, things of this nature. This is what's important for us to establish the redistricting and making lines in the next decade, well after I'm gone from this position, to make sure that we have more sustainability and making sure that the lines are better for us.
Yeah, because since you came into office, they did the redistricting. Did that exacerbate the rich versus poor that you say in the district? Where the richest and the poorest, did the redrawing of the lines have anything to do with that?
I think it magnified it to a certain extent, you know, but I think that it was already there. You know, when you have developers that can have opportunities to do things within the 23rd district, and especially, let's say, on the northeast side of it, or down in the 18th and Vine area, a lot of times back in the day, they would run away from that and run downtown to go build, you know, because they didn't want to deal with the blight. They didn't want to deal with, per se, the community, things of this nature. So it wasn't just a money thing. You know, it was where my crew's going to be working, where my equipment will be kept. Things of this nature played a big part in that as well.
So what can the people in Kansas City who have the fear that says, okay, well, now there's big money in the district, and when it comes to these different projects and things that need to be done, what can we do as just the average citizen to engage with you all to make sure that the funds are allocated properly and all of it doesn't go to the rich part of the district?
Step up, most definitely. Make sure that you're a part of the whole process. See, what we have to do is change the narrative as far as once people are elected, not holding them accountable. And the easiest way to do it is just be a part of what they're doing. And then that way you can always have questions. You can always have concerns. You can voice your opinion. When there are hearings, you can come to Jeff City. If you can't make it to Jeff City, then what you can do is you can have a hearing via over Zoom. You can also email in your testimonies, as well as send in letters for your testimony as well. So just being engaged with your elected officials and your community leaders, I think that's one of the most pertinent parts that we could do and continue to do.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
what
this
questions
too,
do you have about that?
Yeah, because I still got my house in Kansas City and in 76 Terrace in Paseo, but it's I'm telling you, back in the day, I remember having to actually live in Overland Park for certain benefits. I think minimum wage was higher at one point in Overland Park. There was less red tape for businesses in Overland Park, things like that.
Right.
I remember back in the day too, there was no waiting in line for the elections. If you were a resident of Overland Park, you went right to your clubhouse at your townhouse subdivision or whatever. You didn't have to actually go out into the community at all, like you did in the inner city. And one thing I see that the redistricting, what I do like about it, because I glimpsed at it after you said it, AL, is it does make a lot of the politicians step up, because now they got to deal with rich white folks or vice versa. Now you got this mixed up, area. So it looks like now, I think, like, you're not in my area, but in my area, it kind of happened too. But now it's like, yeah, my house in the same area as these Republican, right-wing folks are. So now I'm getting some benefits,
But
that I didn't have
Brother
before.
Jackson, you hit it on the nail, though. It makes them step up. It makes everybody step up. But if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So if you've already stepped up and you continue to step up, you'll be okay. Now, I think that you said something else that was right on time. It does make a difference when, like when you said when you were in JO, that accessibility that you had to be able to do things. Well, I think it's very important that we reestablish to have that type of accessibility here within the 23rd district and the rest of the districts throughout Kansas City. So that's very important as well. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Because when we were talking to Senator Haley, he was frustrated as hell and was ready to step down or do whatever. He was pissed off about the redistricting in his area. He also talked about the bills in Kansas City having the highest bills. And I remember I couldn't afford to insure my damn car in Kansas City. I had a Tahoe back in the day. And I remember they said, well, if you put your Overland Park address, it goes, and it was like 50%. I remember distinctly, it was like, there was no way for you to even say, well, shit, let me go get my phone bill sent over here. And then I got the insurance. Mm-hmm. But insurance was crazy in the hood. The electricity was crazy in the hood. The gas was crazy. Not to mention the school districts and things like that. So I remember moving my family through the years to different areas, Parade Park, Paseo, KCK versus, Kansas City, Missouri, and then, of course, to Johnson County, because of situations like that, especially as a business person. I couldn't do it. And I hope that you guys fix that stuff, because that's why there's so many poor folks in the hood, because people that got any education, we left the hood.
They left the hood
because we couldn't. You couldn't get there's just a lot of things you couldn't get bank accounts, and it was just crazy stuff with those addresses that you were totally limited. And when you would go into the Better Business Bureau and the SBA, and they would tell you your location or your area or whatever is the reason why even if you have a business, for example, right? Their insurance on their employees or their benefits are going to be higher if they're 75th and Prospect. Right. They're at 75th and Row.
Correct.
So it's just crazy to me like that, how they do that to the Black businesses, and then you can't afford to even be there. Not to mention the red tape and the discrimination, and because I think that's why a lot of folks in your district bailed, man, back in the day, and now there's this big gap. Is what I'm getting.
Most definitely. I mean, and
it's because you can see everybody in the middle said, "I'm out."
You can see that in like with our schools and the situations that we're dealing with right now. A lot of the complaints, and I was one of the complainers too, because I went to some of those schools. But anytime you have time to think about things, everything is a business, and even the education system. And so, what I'm saying is, those people that a lot of us that complain, their kids don't even go to school in the district, and they don't live in the district anymore. So it's like we were complaining, but without real purpose, and the same thing goes with the insurance and the way that you would have to move around. And one thing that I can say to elaborate on what AL was saying is the redistricting also hasn't been quite as difficult for me because I already had boots on the ground doing insurance.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have a scheduled appointment with insurance or with anything that we do in life to have an appointment. All it takes is an opportunity for people to listen and people to be able to have a chance to speak so you can hear their story. And then then we can take it from there. So as many
Yeah, because I
opportunities
mean,
we have.
it's frustrating because when you live in an area, you got poor schools, so the education is subpar. There are a lot of elective programs that aren't available. There's
Correct.
no trades. I actually took my boys out to a shooting range a couple months back. We were out in Piper, and so we're talking to them, and they're getting instructed. They're shooting bows and arrows and rifles. And one of the guys mentioned, he said, "Man, your sons are really good. Are they doing this for the school?" And I'm like, they got that in they got that in schools,
It's
right?
like,
You know,
what school was that? Where
what
y'all
school
at?
is that?
Right.
And so what things are you all working on or thinking about to improve the schools? Because it's the frustration comes in when you say, okay, we're redistricting
Okay.
because there's some new blood in the community. We see Kansas City is changing, gentrification is happening all over the place. Are the schools going to get better because of that? Like, what's the next step?
All right. Well, first, let me say this, that uh, it's most definitely going to take a village dealing with the schools. Tomorrow, I'm going to go visit every daycare within my district, me and State Representative Yolanda Young. So we're tasked with a lot of things that we have to get done as far as making sure that from our daycares all the way to secondary education, for those that want to go on to higher education, we have to make sure that we have solid brick and mortar education facilities that can house our future and that can make sure that they have great curriculums and that they are learning, and not only learning where we're just testing, but we need to start and we need to establish something more that tests growth. We need to have growth on a real curriculum basis
Well,
because
because I always say that, so you were talking about being the richest and the poorest, and so when you have an average of 25,000 income, there's very little tax revenue, so there's not a lot of money going to the schools. Now that we've redistricted, we've got some millionaires in the district. Hopefully, they're paying their taxes, so there's more tax revenue. How is that going to be funneled into the schools in a meaningful way? Because I believe independence is a part of your district.
yes, going into
They're
independent,
talking about going to 4 days a week next year. And so you have these working families who now have to figure out, what am I going to do on this extra day? Now, do I have to pay for extra childcare? And, there's that additional expense and worry. And so
hey, they still talking about this year.
this year,
They're talking, yes. So, and I'm not exactly sure, but I most definitely can get the information. And if anybody needs that information, if they email me, I'll make sure that they get it. But you're correct. Going into in the independence area, that's exactly what's happening. So I think it's going to be a group effort to make sure on the state level that we are making sure that the funding is allocated to the schools that are going to be open, and that we make sure that we do have public schools open so that our children can have uh, the great educations that they do deserve. Now, I'm dealing with a situation right now where we're advocating for Genesis to stay open because they want Genesis closed on the 23rd of June. Of,
mm.
of excuse me, of June 2023. So this summer. So I mean, it's a lot of work that has to be done, and it's a group effort. When we talk about things like this, as a statesman, it doesn't have to be in your district. We all have to join together and unite to be able to battle the forces that be that would want to close down an alternative charter, the only charter that stayed open during COVID.
Well, why do they want to close them down? What is that about?
Because they don't want to take the test scores from the time that COVID, from the time that we were in the midst of the heavy parts of COVID, from the beginning of COVID for the past 2 years. They don't want to take that, and they had an increase in scores between 15 to 17%. But you want to not use that and use that as a scapegoat, excuse me, to close that school, and that's something that we're fighting with, and that's part of what I'm going out to those daycares tomorrow for.
Because schools is how I chose my neighborhoods. When I was a kid, I mean, my sisters were kids. We went to would literally move a home or get something in another area just to use that address to be able to get to a better school.
And at first, it seems as if though there were less people that were in the inner cities that understood that, but now it's becoming pertinent that obviously without being as many residents within our districts, that they have left, that they do get it. And so Nationally, you move based upon the school district first now. You know, that first. That comes before the property, the piece of land, whatever it may be, the rental property, the lease, whatever it may be. That is the number one reason that people move, and they make sure that the school district normally is at the top of the list.
Yes. So keeping in that vein, we got the redistricting, everything's changing, gentrification, et cetera. Then bam, we get a new police chief, Stacey Graves. And so I know you had a conversation with her about her priorities coming into the district. What was that conversation like, and what did she state as her priorities?
Oh, it was a very engaging conversation, good conversation. Her number one priority, because that's what we basically stuck on that, AL, to be honest with you. And that was community engagement, rebuilding or per se, starting a new relationship with the KCPD and with our communities.
What ways, what does that look like? So when you say community engagement, are we talking about showing up at night hoops, or, you know, what does that look like?
All right. Well, of course, we got to have things of more substance, considering the way that our city is right now.
Right.
You know. So let me just keep it 100 and tell you that. So what she's doing is she's opening up the doors to us as elected officials more often than not. You know, like it had been. So now we have an open door policy where we can sit in on the majority of these meetings so that we can be privy to this information, and so we can be a part of the process on showing the KCPD and our community how that's going to look. And I think that, you know, one of the things that she did state is she wants to build her own rapport and her own relationship and not base it on the history of the relationships that she's had, that the KCPD has had with the communities.
Kareem, what do you think about that?
Hey, brother, the first thing that came to my mind is that's one of the main reasons I got my passport and got the hell out of Dodge. Was I just didn't feel safe in Kansas City. My friends didn't feel safe. My family didn't feel safe. And you're in a business, you got employees. You're worried about them driving to work. You're worried about them driving home from client meetings or Christmas parties. You know, I've bailed out and been bailed out many times in Kansas City, you know, and I'm a nerd. You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine if I was making $25,000 a year in your district, you know, trying to maneuver around. I couldn't do it. And more so than the school, that's why people are leaving. You know, we literally went to California initially before we went anywhere else because it's more diverse.
Right.
KCPD, and I never personally really had a problem. I've been pulled over, or going through checkpoints on Main Street, things like that. And I always had nice cars and dressed good. But I wouldn't, until I left Kansas City, Brother Mike, I never wore a hoodie in my life. I never wore a baseball cap in my life, unless I was literally going to the gym, or the country club. You know, I like them Russell Simmons baseball caps. I wear one of them, Russell Simmons sweatsuit. I might wear one of them, but technically I was literally trained as a kid. Oh, hell no, you ain't wearing that. You're going to be a target. You're already a target wearing a suit, but at least you're a different kind of target. Well,
I mean, and then it compounds it, Kareem, because, when there's gentrification happening, and so the neighborhood, looked like you had a vibe with those people, you knew everybody. If you had a birthday party and a couple of people came over and you were outside, everything was cool. When the neighborhood changes, now the police are getting called. There's a new police chief, and so you have all these things going on in your mind, like, how are these things going to be received now that were once just normal and it was just a part of who we are? Is it going to be policed differently? I think that's the question that everyone has. Is policing going to change?
Well, I think there's going to have to be, because we have an understanding that we're going to move forward, and there's going to be more accountability that has to be that they have to take hold of. And so I'm saying that, but because when I spoke with our new police chief, Graves, that I made sure that that was something that we mentioned and were able to speak clearly about and very transparently, is the fact that we want to be a part of everything that is going on. You said that we can be a part of it. And so moving forward, if we are all, as elected officials and community leaders in those rooms, then we can be more a part of everything that's going on. Also, our pastors, the rest of the city council members as well. Everybody that has a real stake that is involved in this has to be a part of it in order for it to work. City Councilwoman Raina Park Shaw had traveled. I think her and some other city council members had went to Nebraska and looked at some of the programs and things that they've done to be more engaged with the community and with their police departments that have been very, very successful. And she's spoken very highly of these, and I've had an opportunity to look at all the information that she brought back, and I think it's something that we could possibly mirror, and it's something that moving forward we're going to be looking into. So you're going to see more changes because we're going to make sure that we hold them more accountable, because you're not underfunded, you have more than enough money. That's never been a problem. I'm not tripping on how much. I'm not tripping on overfunding, underfunding. I'm tripping on accountability. I'm tripping on building, on police, on reform.
A little pushback, Brother Mike, a little pushback to this. I agree with you 120%. But traveling the world, being outside of Kansas City, I'll tell you one thing in the defense of the police, because I do know cops. I never really had an issue, that I didn't deserve, but I do know what happens. And we know in Missouri as a whole, it's all, But the crime rate in Kansas City is fucking outrageous. Killings. I've got 20, 30 friends that have been killed over the years. Gunshot killings. I have a couple of friends over the last few weeks, between our, and I mean just crime in general, not black on black, just in general, like you said, people are making 20. I hear they're making 10,000 a year, but you said average is 25. And it's like, how can we somehow make our hometown better to where the police, I get the accountability and I get it, but I do also see, because I know people. I grew up with people. I got my own people.
Also, Kareem, but what I mean by accountability, it's just not with the KCPD. It's with gun makers. Because the gun is what's killing the people.
No, but the economics is what's killing.
Well, the economics
making $10,000, $20,000 a year.
Right, but if you put people on people and they don't have anything to do, of course, we've seen this throughout anywhere in the world. I mean, and I've traveled abroad too. I've seen it happen in France. So of course it starts there. It starts with the economics. So that's why we're trying to change it. And one of the reasons and one of the ways that we can change it is through more life skill and trade centers. And so that's another piece of legislation that I have, being an insurance guy, is where we take insurance and we put it into a vocational part of school, so that, because it is a skill, it's so many things you have to learn. Claim adjusting.
That's what I was trying to back up to, is what they're going to do between the schools, between that economic thing you were talking about. There is no way in hell that a person that goes to high school in the United States should be making $10,000 and $20,000 a year. I can make more than that in a third world country where $1,000 equals 58 here, 1,000 here. I can make 58,000 25 times easier in another country, right? As a Black American dude, right?
So what we have to do is
working at McDonald's. Let me tell you something else too, to cut you. I'm sorry you triggered me a little bit. If you work at McDonald's, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, churches, Taco Bell, abroad, like you bet you've been in France, right? Anywhere else in the world, that is not a ghetto ass job. That's a job to be proud of. They wear their uniform. They can feed their families.
It's not a ghetto job in Cali. You're right. They're making. I mean, it depends on your thought process first of all. And so our mentality is why it's stagnant and everybody's stuck on top of each other, as far as the economic system being the main thing that propels all of the violence and everything. So you're absolutely correct with that part. We changed that narrative by giving them something else to do besides nothing, and having a mind that is full of complacement. So we have to have things that are better than them just sitting around and figuring out what they're going to do day by day, as opposed to having something to do. And another thing that we can do is not stop having these things with our youth, where we tell them, well, you got to do this in order to get a tablet or a laptop and things like that. We got to cut that out. We have to use the same mentalities of those that are already successful by when we give them their flowers while they're still here, we need to give our youth flowers. We need to find out what's on their horizon, where their mindset is and where it can go. And then we can train them in those fields, and then they can live a better life. They can live in a better school district. They can go to their HOA meetings from living in a good development around people that have good credit like them, and they can change the narrative by buying a warehouse a mile down the street together because they all have good credit, and then they can empower their own people as well. So it's even deeper than just the jobs and careers, when we can also have our own livelihood by owning our own businesses, and not only wanting to be a boss, but be a leader. A boss can just delegate what to do. A leader will teach others how to lead.
I love that.
You guys can also help by teaching these kids to get online and use the internet.
Yes.
We could teach our younger people, let's leapfrog. Let's stop teaching them the same stuff that they've been learning that we already behind in, and teach them to say, okay, y'all, you know what? We're going to have an internet IT. Everybody going to be Google certified or something, because then the problem is in Kansas City in general is that, if I become halfway decent at selling insurance and whatever it might be, even my job at McDonald's, right? The first thing you're going to do if you're a badass ghetto hood McDonald's worker is get transferred to Johnson County.
Correct.
And now you're going to commute.
We have superstars like Cerise Hall that was that has been viewing in that can combat those digital deficits, and they can help our youth. And hopefully we can come back on the show one day and we can talk more about those things as well. But broadband is my baby. So when you say the internet, you're exactly right. You know, we have
if you can live in India and work online, why can't you live in the hood in Kansas City off Quindaro or off of where you up Paseo and Independence Avenue? Why can't you live? Because it's cheap. If you was a white kid, you'd be like, wait a second, over here in this little area, it's $500 a month. Let me go live there.
We're doing that in the 23rd district right now.
Thank you.
We're changing that narrative. We're doing it. No, we're not talking about it. We're actually
talking about that one. Because what I was getting at is, after they graduate high school, what are they gonna do? Where are they gonna work in Kansas City? What? And I don't mean corporate either. I mean, where are they gonna work?
Okay. For instance, let me answer that question for you. There's a place called A-Steam Village, right, ran by Director William Wells, where the youth, the students, are providing internet services to a nice percentage of my district, and it's continuing to grow. These are students, right? So this is what I'm talking about measuring growth. These are students that are doing jobs right now that pay $65,000 to $75,000 to start off. They're already powering up the community, not only the youth, but our seniors as well, and also our millennials. So we are changing that narrative as we speak on a daily basis. I was part of a broadband bill it was SB 820, Senator Burlington's bill. And my part of that bill was the language, and this was an omnibus bill, the language that said that during the COVID, it's considered a national crisis. So therefore, it's a state of an emergency. And in the Constitution, we need the funding allocated sooner than later so that we can establish a digital connectivity throughout our unserved and underserved inner city communities, as well as all of our rural areas throughout the state of Missouri.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for looking down. I'm steady taking notes.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, because for me, it's not necessarily about even the students. It's about people that can work from their damn homes, because now they got a good internet, as opposed to being in some Berlin, some damn where. They got real American internet. So now they can say, I can move back to the hood with live with grandma, because now I can make $75,000 online, and I don't have to be in Overland Park or Chicago or what. I can go home.
Exactly.
Because there's certain places in the whole world I can't live because of the internet.
Well, look, we're third in the nation in IT right here in Missouri. So we're going to build off of that, and we're going to build off of that ecosystem. And like you stated, not just for the students, but also for our millennials and our seniors, for everybody. You know, and it's very important.
Online shops,
Yes,
restaurants. I
sir.
mean, internet changes the game for the community because now you can draw in that, okay,
It brings
ain't
in
no
more
jobs here.
sustainability.
We got cheap rent.
Right.
And we got
Right.
cheap Wi-Fi, you know, so we can, and people will come in, students especially, right? Because they, okay, because it's an issue.
Right.
And
But,
I think that
but once again, we got to train them on that as well.
That's the thing too, because just having the internet is one thing, but when you got artificial intelligence taking over, it's going to knock out about 40 to 60% of the jobs over the next decade. You need the training. You don't just need internet. You need the internet and the training.
You got to have the training.
I love
have
AI.
one without the other.
That if I knew what I knew in 2008 when the recession hit, and when I was in Kansas City, my company, about tech. You can have, one more coffee, please. I'm out of coffee, y'all. One more tech situation. If I knew what I know now, my company in downtown Kansas City at the Firestone building would never have closed, because I would have understood tech more to where I could have been digital faster. I could have been online faster. I could have taken advantage of AI and outsourcing faster. And maybe I would have downsized like all the big white companies did, but I wouldn't have had to shut the hell down because tech was so behind for the Black community, especially, to where now as a business, I couldn't afford to even be in Kansas City. It just didn't make sense. You know, and especially when all of my staff started offshoring to Asia. You know, it started being, well, let me go check about what offices in Asia cost. You know, I could have left downtown and went to, Independence Avenue for that, like a lot of folks did. You know, like Chuck Chinuma left downtown. You know him. I remember you see your post, and he moved to, I think he's in your district or nearby. He's there by Gates.
Yes, sir.
You know,
so I know what you're talking about.
Yes, you know what I'm saying? I could have said, okay, well, let me move over here in your hood, because the rent's still cheap over there in District 23 or District 3. So because downtown, they, but I didn't know about tech. It was how would I move the phone lines? How would I, which now I don't have damn phones anymore. Like, like how would where would my printers be? Where would I store? I don't even do printing anymore. It's drop ship now. It's so everything changed. But I learned none of this in Kansas City, bro.
Yeah.
None of it was taught to me as a business person. I was 35-ish, back then. I was about AL's age. I was a kid back then. Nobody was telling me nothing. And then I started getting on the plane and started seeing white folks and bigger companies
the rest of the world.
Same thing as me. I started realizing, well, Donald Trump's ties are made in China. What does that really mean? Like, and then I went to China. And I saw Trump, Beyonce, Nike, and the brothers in Kansas City. I know many of the designers in your district, for example, can't even get patterns, can't even figure out how to push their clothing lines. And these folks aren't even having patterns in factories anymore. So we're so far behind. I think that component, I went on a tangent, but that component is an asset that in our community, these kids don't have current information.
Correct.
Yeah. Now that's one thing, like with the kids. So when you say the current information for the kids, we can update programming in the schools. And I really do believe with the redistricting and the gentrification, the schools are going to improve naturally because of who's in the district now. The thing is, when you talk about engagement, so this talks about when you were talking about the police chief, when we talk about Jefferson City, when we talk about all of those things, engagement also has to do with the adults, so that 35 to 55-year-old population. And so from your perspective, you're there now. Why don't we engage? Right. So like, for example, there was this guy, he was doing a live stream a couple days ago. He was talking about literally nothing. Right. He was clowning, making jokes, whatever. He was smoking some weed, talking about, women in the club. And there was like 1,000 people on there from Kansas City. Right.
Deprogram in order to reprogram.
Yeah, because I really believe that that's the issue. We make a lot of complaints about our community. We say this isn't right and that isn't right, but you have a town hall meeting, nobody shows up. You have a state representative on a social media platform where you can ask them anything. Very few people show up. And so we have to take some of the accountability as the citizens of Kansas City and say, why aren't we actually getting engaged?
So here's what I'll tell them, Al. You say you got a family member that was wrongfully incarcerated, right? I said, well, you get and that was a certain judge that that did it. And so you get with other people that have had family members that they feel as if though were wrongly incarcerated. And what you do at that point is you get enough of these type of people together and you vote out that judge. But you have to have that type of want and will, and a lot don't realize what they're capable of doing and the power that they hold as just as the constituent. And so what happens is they like, it'll never change, and then they carry on that mentality. But if you can bring them this information, or at least have that information readily available for them, then you can help change that narrative. You get enough people, you don't like the people on the school board, you don't think that they're treating the children fairly, you think that the staff is underpaid, and once the money has been allotted for instance, for them to receive more more money within the budget for school resources, for things that they need for their classrooms. If you don't like the people that are sit on that board, then you vote them out. So you have to understand the power that you have. But if you don't know any better, you won't do any better.
So it's just like church, right? Because I hear a lot of pastors, they be like, well, man, it seems like we done lost the youth and ain't nobody coming to the church no more, right? And so then they start trying to think of different initiatives and things to actually pull people in, because you can go out all day long, but if we don't actually engage with you, and so like what type of initiatives or programs or messages or messaging, like what can we do to get the community to take the political process more seriously?
All right.
And
So
I'm specifically talking about like that 35 to 50-year-old age range, because we're the ones who are still raising families. We've got kids in the schools, et cetera, but our biggest voting block is actually the seniors.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it has been. I mean, thank God for the staple community of our seniors for being able to hold it down. But you're exactly right. From that age group that you're talking about, what has to happen is that you can't vote people in and allow that elected official to run off, and the accountability on the people's side that voted them in. You have to tell that same message too. It has to be grassroots. They have to be able to, our seniors need to be able to tell that message as well. And who can they tell it to? They say, well, they got grandkids, they got kids, and then tell them the importance of it. But we have to do other things as well, like this. One of the things that I want to do is I want to partner with our communities, businesses, different organizations, schools, whoever it may be. And what we do is we do something for those. Now I'm gonna start the age group just a little younger, but it's going to involve everybody in all those age groups. What we can do is we have different events. Now, these don't have to be held simultaneously together. But say, for instance, for those that are 18 and able to vote, right, but have no passion to vote, they don't, and probably don't want to hear that message being told. But if we had a certain thing where we could have events where they could have, like, say, for instance, those that probably had never been to a prom or ROTC ball, a debutante ball, things of that nature, where we get together and we give them that type of platform and we show appreciation to them. And when they go into this ball-like atmosphere, there's vendors and to be able to network with. There are college scholarships available. There are job and IT training. There's coding. There is agriculture, urban ag. There's STEM. There's STEAM. There's so many things that are in that room that are readily available to them that they never even knew existed. And it's showing that you care about them now. And now you can start the process of deprogramming them in order to reprogram them to be staples in their communities.
There's two things. There's two things though, because one, I feel like we stayed behind, kind of like Kareem said, like we just stayed behind in Kansas City, because when your largest part of the voting block is the senior group, they're voting on past issues. The thought process is completely different.
Right. So then we move up into or say 25 to 45, or as you stated, from 35 to 55. Then we do the same thing. We have networking events that give them all of the information broken down into layman terms. Everybody can understand it. Now you can deliver a message, but you can't deliver a message if you can't understand it. If you telling a person, instead of giving them your bill summary, you give them your bill and expect them to understand a 5-page, 10-page bill, whatever it may be, they won't have any understanding of it. So
Brother, I went to the House website, the last meeting you had, you were in Jeff City like a couple weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
Kareem, I'm talking like hundreds of proposals. Like, ain't nobody reading all that, right? And then it's just like the church. See, this is the problem with the church as well, is we have to come to you. And I'm not talking about you, but I'm just saying the church, we have to come to you. And most people are not in the state of mind that they're going to do that. And so why don't politicians and the police chief, et cetera, go where the people are? Right. So we have all these concerts, we have all these club nights. That's where everybody's at. Make an appearance where the people are and get the message out that way, and then become more relatable. So then they say, okay, well, man, let me see what Mike's talking about. Right. And then you have that opening.
Right. And like you said, I know that you weren't necessarily talking about me because, I see you out and we see each other. You know what I'm saying? And 9 times out of 10, I'm there to spread the message before any type of celebratory events or things of that nature. I'm there strictly to let people know that I'm being able to be engaged with them and be able to try to find out what it is that they need so that I can help them. Point them in the right direction.
Shout out to brother, Senator Haley's homie here, David Youngblood. He's out of DC. He's an attorney there, a lobbyist attorney there is why he's chiming in 1, 2, 3. He's letting y'all know what steps to take. Thank you for that, David Youngblood. But I'll tell you this, man, AL as a witness, we tried to put together this political vote KC thing during the election, before the election. And
yes, sir.
Brother, we could not find a list of the black people. I mean, besides Freedom Incorporated, which is for the old folks, we couldn't find the y'all. We couldn't even get connected. If I was trying to push Republicans and white folks, I knew 30 off the bat. And a shout out to some of the folks, the new first black mayor in Kansas City, Kansas. Senator Haley won his seat, and he's also head of the school board over there. I shout out to folks that's won, and congratulations to you guys. But overall, the community, the total disservice that the Kansas City politicians do to the community when they are electing is ridiculous.
And let me amplify that for you, Kareem. Let me amplify that for you. They're not on social media. We could, it's like when I tell you, we took a list and then we go down, we type their name in Google, nothing pops up. You go to their Twitter, they haven't posted anything in a couple of years. You go to their Instagram, and so again, it's that matter of going where the people are.
We know we're in the bubble. So if we can't find anything, how is the student council president at Lincoln Prep gonna find out who the hell you are, right?
Exactly.
To speak at their event or to empower the principal. How are they gonna find and how are you gonna engage with your comments if even us, one of the only black media in Kansas City, who's talking to KC Star, we're doing all these things, we couldn't even put together a 7-page booklet with our black politicians because we couldn't find them. It was embarrassing, actually.
Well, and here's something I want to share. Mike hasn't heard this story, and so I'm talking to my children, right? Okay. And I said, if you were able to vote, and you could vote for like your favorite influencer, say they were running for office, right? Okay. Or would you vote for the politician who's been doing it for 20 or 30 years? My son said, the influencer. And I'm like, well, why? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's childlike thought, But he actually had a valid point. He said the influencer, I feel like I know him. I see him all the time. I understand how he thinks. I feel connected to him. This politician, he could be a bad person. I don't even know who he is, and I'm just voting on him because that's his profession. And so why do you feel that there's a lack of engagement through social media? We're talking about these bills with connecting the internet and bringing everything up to speed, and we're talking about tech, but then we have politicians who don't even use social media. So how can we even connect?
Okay, so let me say this. I think that the best thing to do is to do what we're doing now, is to have a show that says, let's see how many will tune in and give us all of their information, or give us some of any type of social media platform or email addresses or anything that is needed so that they can have better connectivity. Let's challenge them on that. and let's see who will all show up then. And then we can once again continue to hold them accountable, because you should have accessibility to those. And see, I think a lot of it is a lot of people don't want to hear the truth or hear what their constituents or people want to say or have to say. So a lot of people aren't built for it, and they hop in these arenas, and then they can, they get in it, and sometimes it's a little too much, and they don't realize it, until sometimes it's too late. So I don't necessarily think that it's for everybody, but I do think that we can change that narrative and at least get more by just having a show and saying, hey, who's going to step up to the plate? You know what I'm saying? We're calling you out.
Mike, these black folks, and tell me the truth now. These black folks playing the same game as these white folks is playing, and they know they need 10 votes. So they don't give a damn about really helping and informing and meeting and connecting with the community, the same as white folks don't, because they know if they get these 10 old people over here at the retirement home, they won, and nobody knows anything. They playing the same game, because in the day, his kid doesn't know what a damn influencer is. All they know is that's popular. So to me, part of your job as a politician is to become an influencer.
Most definitely.
If you don't want to become an influencer, then really and truly, you doing the same thing as a white politician that just got the black vote. But
Donald Trump did that. Donald Trump became president from being an influencer.
Most definitely. He propelled himself right into the seat from being, from having self-content. And I think that is big. That's something that we do have to do. And you can't be an influencer if you don't have, if you're not engaging, you're not out in the public, and you don't have any type of digital connectivity with the people. So you have to have those things. And especially when you have brothers like you two, that are giving us a media outlet. So if they had the wherewithal to know that here's an opportunity right here for them to propel themselves into being an influencer and to being someone of substance that can get things done in their community and not have to even go through an elected official seat. They could do these things and empower their communities just by knowing that. One of the things I wanted to end with, but I'll just say this now, is the fact of love and knowing thyself. If you know that you are powerful as a person and a human being, and that you can get things done, if you have these opportunities, there's no such thing as luck. There's just preparation and opportunity. Then greatness can happen. And
that's why things don't happen when you guys are pushing these bills, like Youngblood was saying. Because if you just a lone Negro in the room and you're a minority and you have no damn influence, it ain't like that you can say, yeah, I'm a lone nigga in the corner, but I got 50,000 brothers in Kansas City who watch my political cocktails and blunts show. But at the end of the day, if you had that in that room, you might be able to push these bills a little bit more and help these kids more. And by them guys not having any influence and not caring about it, it makes our community look bad. Because the white folks know you ain't had no post in 2 years on your Instagram. They know you just sitting here taking up space.
Once again, it goes back to that accountability. And our people need to see at any age, they need to see unity. They need to see brothers and sisters that look like us be able to unite, get things done, be in the same room, network, be amongst each other, be those that are influencers, and that sit at the table with other influencers, so that not only can we sit at the table, we can become the table. But it does start with the things that you were both talking about.
Man, listen, I know we said an hour, so we're over the time, and I appreciate you, just coming on, being open, honest, transparent, because that's exactly what we need. And we're definitely going to plan that panel. So I'll reach out and we'll make sure that we make that panel happen. But before you go, there is one question that we ask everybody that comes on.
Okay.
That question is, just imagine that a genie's lamp fell out of the sky right in your lap. You rub it, and you got 3 wishes. You can't use them on yourself, but it has to be for the community. And so if you had 3 wishes for the community, what would those be and why?
Mine are simple. Real simple. Love, know thyself. And once you do those 2 things, just understand that you have the world in front of you and you have the capability of being great. I say those 3 things: love, know thyself, and the capability of being great, because we are powerful and we have to understand that. And that's part of that process of deprogramming in order to reprogram, so that you can know yourself, so that you can know that forbidden fruit is only knowledge. And if you have knowledge, and obviously both you brothers do, from the stories and the time that we just spent here today on this podcast. So I just think that it takes more of us to be able to spread those messages of love, teaching our people who they really are, and knowing that we can propel ourselves anywhere that we want to be. And that's why we have brothers like Brother Kareem Jackson, whose passport stays full and doesn't have to just stay in one place, and he can move abroad. And that's what we want to be able to do for all our brothers and sisters.
Love it, love it. Before you go, if you can let people know how to get in contact with you, if they have any questions or concerns about the district, how can they reach you?
All right. They can reach me at Mike Johnson on Facebook, and that's connected to my political page. So if they go on there, they'll see that they can connect to Mike Johnson for KCMO 23. And so from there, you can also meet me or get in touch with me at MJKCMO23@gmail.com. And you can also get me at my house email, michael.johnson@house.mo.gov. And you can also hit me up anytime that you see me. And I'm readily available to sit, speak about things that the people want, because I think that that's another part of making sure that we have legislation that can be pushed, because we need to make it their legislation and something that they can get behind.
Listen, we definitely have to plan the next one, because there was another topic on here that we did. We spent a lot of time on the business and the schools, but it was great information and we needed it. We needed to have that discussion. But I'm very, very curious about the mental health initiatives, because you were on the health and mental health board. We definitely need to talk about that. And so we'll plan another one sooner than later. But just to give people just a tidbit of information, what is your view on the mental health landscape in Kansas City, and just maybe one or two things that can be improved, or if there's any initiatives that you're currently working on, how can we support that?
Okay, just real quick, I'll throw a few out. With mental health right now, regardless if people want to admit it or not, I think that everybody around the world right now is dealing with some type of post-traumatic stress disorder. We're in the midst of a pandemic still, and so everybody's been touched or traumatized in some way. Either you know someone that has lost someone, or you personally lost someone due to this virus that we're dealing with COVID. So I think that in order for us to start a healing process, we have to not, when we're dealing with mental health, we can't hurt people. We can't say, okay, you're homeless and have a mental health problem, so you go over here. You're a veteran and you have a mental health problem, so you go over here. Each individual is very, very unique, and so we have to treat it as such. All the way down to our police department. I think that we should have mental health evaluations for our police officers quarterly, because they go through a lot of things on their daily routine and their daily job as well. And I think that we can have them better suited to be policing the community that they work for. And so mental health is very, very high on my list of things to accomplish before I leave the state.
Well, look, do this for us, brother. I'm going to throw this out there because I have a nonprofit. It's called Elevating Men, and we focus on men's mental health. And we had a couple of therapists that came on. They said one of the biggest problems they have is with the insurance companies, because they may have a person come in and they need to work with them for, 45, 60 days or more to really see any benefit. But the insurance company is only willing to pay for like 10.
Right. Okay. So that is another thing. I'm glad you mentioned that. So we have a bill that we passed last year for the state that allows, it's on the same platform now. The same way that you would go to the doctor with insurance or without, but you're on a level to where now it's just not about your illnesses or your ailments. It's about his mental health as well. So they had the same criteria. They're on the same level now, to whereas, like I just stated, so many times when there's mental health issues, the person is just kind of bombarded and pushed to the side and said, okay, you stay over there and we'll get to you later. We're dealing with other patients. So I think that on the insurance side, we need to do something. And that's something we can also sit down with Brother Johnson and talk about, a piece of legislation that we can most definitely move that forward to where we can have that longevity that is needed in order for the therapist or the counselor or the psychiatrist to evaluate these people.
Brother, thank you so much for addressing that.
mental health in the state, just the crime, okay, the economics, there's more things dealing with mental health. We always think of somebody that's crazy that needs 45 days of therapy, and has some serious issues. Whereas just dealing with 25K opportunities a year in Kansas City, that's stressful.
Oh,
Dealing
that'll
with
make you go out and commit a crime. That'll make you go crazy.
It's stressful. Yeah.
Right.
That's where the high blood is coming from.
Yeah.
We got to fix that environment.
Yeah.
Guess one reason that I left too was it was intense. Like, like dealing with all that situation for the regular person. And I was in therapy, by the way, twice a week. I go on Mondays and Fridays. And by the time I got to the next Monday, 2 days later, my whole life ended in my head, and I'd be in there and they'd be like, you were just here on Friday. It's Monday. So what happened? I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I wasn't necessarily, and I was in there for long. I was paying myself. But I think the environment really needs a lot of work in Kansas City. And I'm glad that you're doing some stuff. But the mental health there is not just about folks that are just diagnosed schizophrenic. It's about dealing with the police in the back of that mirror every damn day.
Well, then that's and real quick, this is just my perception of this. That's in our DNA, because you could be a black police chief and the police get behind you, you're gonna get scared or nervous.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so we, and once again, you can't do nothing about it unless we are deprogramming and reteaching and relearning and reprogramming.
Mr. Johnson, we spoke with several people in the political landscape. I can say that you're someone who's come on. You've been honest. You've been transparent. I can tell that you have a good heart for the community and you want to see things improve. And you're doing the right things, right? You're doing the right things. You're focused on mental health. You're focused on business and economics. You're focused on improving the schools. And so we definitely support you here at Black Kansas City Magazine, A.L. Johnson Life Insurance Agency. You definitely have our support. And we're going to get that panel together. So we'll be connecting very soon. We'll make that happen and we'll be back again. But if you have anything that you need to get in contact with for Mike Johnson, he's available through social media, one of the few politicians that are. So you can find him at Mike Johnson on Facebook or any of your social media. Connect with him, support him, get behind him. And we appreciate you all tuning in. Kareem Jackson, Black Kansas City Magazine, A.L. Johnson from A.L. Johnson Life Insurance Agency. We will see you all again soon. Thanks for tuning in.